What is up, guys? I'm Remote Night Owl, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So today we're back with item breakdowns, and today we're going to be looking at how to build Trinity Force. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, Owl, isn't there only one way to build Trinity Force? And the answer to that question theoretically is yes. Trinity Force does build out of the same 3 items every game. That does not change, and those items are Phage, Stinger, and Sheen. So what makes this a unique topic is the fact that each of the 3 items I just listed that build into Trinity Force, each of them offer a unique power spike when it comes to the build path. So if you're playing a Trinity Force user, it's important to get down which order you should build these 3 items, so that way you can optimize your power spikes when you're building into Trinity Force. Now very quickly, one thing I'd like to talk about with Trinity Force specifically in building it is the fact that it is a unique item in the game because it actually builds out of Sheen, and there are 2 other Sheen items in the game, that is Iceborne Gauntlet and Lichbane. Now, because those 2 items do not fit what we're talking about right now, I just want to point out that I'm not going to be talking about them, because specifically right now we're going to be talking about a few champions that build Trinity Force, and then the specific way of how you should build Trinity Force. So we're only going to be focusing on this one item, and again, Iceborne Gauntlet and Lichbane fit 2 completely different scenarios, so for this video we don't even need to worry about it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the 3 items listed that build into Trinity Force and get their stats established with what they do, and then we're going to look at 3 different champion examples that use Trinity Force differently, and then what the correct build path going into that item is going to look like for them. So the first item that we're going to take a look at that builds into Trinity Force is Phage. Now Phage is an AD item that grants 200 health and 15 attack damage, and the unique passive reads as follows. Basic attacks on hit grant 20 flat movement speed for 2 seconds. However, if you kill a unit with Phage, it grants 60 flat movement speed instead. Now, champions that build Phage typically are champions that are agile and want to keep up with their enemy when they're attacking them. Now, the next item that we're going to look at that builds into Trinity Force is Sheen. Now, Sheen grants 250 mana as well as 10% cooldown reduction, and its unique passive reads as follows. After using an ability, your next basic attack on hit deals 100% of your base AD as bonus damage with a 1.5 second cooldown. Now, when it comes to champions who rush building Sheen first, these champions typically have extra auto attack modifiers in their kit, and this helps them get extra damage off, as well as in certain cases helping them farm minions, which we're actually going to take a look at here in a little bit. And the last item we're looking at is Stinger, and this simply grants 35% bonus attack speed, and it has a unique passive of granting 10% additional cooldown reduction. Now, this item is good for rushing on champions that benefit heavily off of attack speed that look to build into Trinity Force at some point during the game. So now that we've established what these 3 items that build into Trinity Force do, we're going to look at 3 different unique champion examples and how their build paths are optimized into building Trinity Force with these 3 items. So the first unique example of a champion that we're going to be looking at that uses Trinity Force in League of Legends is Irelia. Now, Irelia uses Trinity Force at an optimal level because all 3 of her basic abilities utilize auto attack specifically. So with Phage, she's constantly going to be getting movement speed procs. With Trinity Force, she activates an ability, and she's going to be getting that extra damage. And then because she's auto attack based, the Stinger is going to help her specifically get more auto attacks off for more subsequent damage. Now, in order to optimally build Irelia into Trinity Force, and keeping in mind that all 3 of her basic abilities are somewhat auto attack based, what we're going to be doing is in order, we're going to go Phage first, followed by Stinger, following up with Sheen, which will then build into Trinity Force. So in the specific case of Irelia and building into Trinity Force, the reason that is the optimal way to build into that item for her is as follows. So first of all, the movement speed from Phage is going to allow her to keep up with enemies, since she is primarily auto attack based with all her damage and her basic abilities. And then the reason you want to take Stinger second over Sheen is because the extra attack speed based on how her kit works is going to benefit her more, because when she goes in to trade or do a combo, she's going to activate all of her abilities at once, so you're going to lose gold value on the Sheen damage. So for her, you need to look at Sheen more as a utility rather than a primary source of damage. So the next example of a unique Trinity Force user in League of Legends that we're going to look at is Nasus. Now Nasus differs from Irelia because Nasus's job is simply to farm his Q. Now, the more minions and units that Nasus's Q kills, and it is an auto attack by the way, or an auto attack reset in his case, the more minions and units that he kills, the more damage that ability specifically gets. So he just sits top lane and farms that ability all game. So because this is what Nasus's kit is based around, we're actually going to switch up the order for him, and it looks like as follows. The first item we're going to rush is Sheen, second is Phage, and the third item we're going to build is Stinger, which will then build into Trinity Force. Now, the reason we build Nasus this way specifically is because since he is last hitting and farming his Q and stacking it up, we want to be able to enhance that ability as much as possible. So since it is a basic attack, his Q will proc Sheen. So when it comes to that item, we want to go Sheen first, and then because of the extra AD and movement speed from Phage, we want to get that second, and because Nasus really doesn't need attack speed too much, Stinger is just going to come last, which will then build into Trinity Force altogether. So because Sheen and Phage grant that extra attack damage and bonus damage onto his Q, we want to do those two items first, specifically Sheen first, so that way his kit specifically can be optimized when building Trinity Force. So the last champion we're going to look at that is a unique Trinity Force builder in League of Legends is actually going to be Jax. Now the thing that's funny about Jax is that the way his kit works, he can actually build any of the three items going into Trinity Force, and he's going to have a pretty even power spike, unlike Nasus or Irelia, which I just listed for you. So with Jax specifically, you could build Stinger, Sheen, or Phage first, second, or third, and it's pretty much going to work out for him early game when he's building that. So just to give a quick rundown of how each of these items synergizes with his kit perfectly. First of all, Phage is the same principle with Irelia. The basic attacks are going to help him keep up with enemies because of that passive movement speed. Sheen is going to add extra burst damage, especially to his W, because it's an auto attack reset, so that's going to give him better damage when trading in lane. And then Stinger actually synergizes with his passive because his passive grants bonus attack speed every time he auto attacks. So when it comes to that item specifically, you can actually get a decent power spike because you get that extra attack speed from his passive on top of 35% bonus attack speed. You're going to have a pretty good time trading with your enemies. Well guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching. Now hopefully with the examples that I listed for you today, these help explain Trinity Force and how they should be specifically used with certain champion kits and certain champion abilities. And if you use another champion that is a Trinity Force user in the game, I hope this video helped clear things up with what it does and then also how to build into it correctly. Well guys, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see each other again real soon. Have a wonderful day.